sound of your name, Yahuwah, Elohim, Yahuwah is one. Heaven and earth will shake at the sound of your name, Elohim, Yahuwah is one. Heaven and earth will shake at the sound of your name, Yahuwah, Elohim, Yahuwah is one. Heaven and earth will shake at the sound of your name, Yahuwah, Elohim, Yahuwah is one. Shema Israel, Yahuwah, Elohim, Yahuwah is one. Shema Israel, Yahuwah, Elohim, Yahuwah Echad, Elohim over all. Yahuwah, Elohim, Yahuwah is one. Elohim over all. Yahuwah, Elohim, Yahuwah Echad. Da 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 da. Yahuwah, Elohim, Yahuwah is one.
And shalom, everybody. How's it going? So today's the last section of Bereshith, or Genesis. So we'll be doing 5 plus the last 2 we didn't do from last week because of all the technical problems. Seem to got them all fixed for now, hopefully. So yeah, this will be the last for Bereshith, and then we're going to be doing Daniel after this next week. So join me for that one. It's going to be pretty exciting. Going to be revealing the times we're living in. You know, not many people know we're living in the end times. You know, we're in the birth pangs. You know, I think this is important to realize. No, nothing is going to go back to normal or the way it was. It's definitely not. The new world order is on its way here. Trust me. Anyway, excuse me. We'll get to Bereshith here. So, let's jump right into it here. Alright, and we left off at 43. So, but the scarcity of food was severe in the land, and it came to be, when they had eaten up the grain, which they had brought from Mizraim. So remember, there was a famine in the land, and they were buying up all the grain that he had stored up for 7 years. And that their father said to them, "Go back, buy us a little food." But Yahudah spoke to him, saying, The man vehemently warned us, saying, "You do not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you let your brother go with us, we go down and buy you food. But if you do not let him go, we do not go down, because the man said to us, you do not see my face unless your brother is with you. And Israel said, why did you do evil to me, to inform the man that you still had a brother? And they said, the man kept asking about us and our relatives, saying, is your father still alive? Have you a brother? And we informed him according to these words. How could we know that he would say, bring your brother down? And Yehudah said to Israel, his father, send the boy with me, and let us arise and go, and live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. I myself shall stand guarantor for him. From my hand you are to require him, if I do not bring him back to you, and put him before you. Then let me bear the blame forever. For if we had not delayed, truly, by now, we could have returned the second time. And their father Israel said to them, if so, then do this. Take some of the best fruit of the land in your vessels, and bring a present down for the man, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds. And take double silver in your hand, and take back in your hand the silver that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. It could have been a mistake. And take your brother, and arise, and go back to the man. And El Shaddai gave to you compassion before the man, so that he shall release your brother, and Benjamin. And I, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved. And the men took that present, and Benjamin, and they went, and they took double the amount of silver in their hand, and arose and went down to Mitzrayim, and stood before Joseph. And Joseph saw Benjamin with them, and said to the one over his house, bring the men home, and make a great slaughter, and prepare for these men are to eat with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph said. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid, because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, is it because of the silver which was put back into our sacks the first time that we are brought in, to throw himself upon us and fall upon us, to take us as slaves, our donkeys too? So they came near to the man over the house of Joseph, and spoke to him at the door of the house, and said, O my master, we indeed came down the first time to buy food, but it came to be, when we came to the lodging place, that we opened our sacks, and saw each man's silver in the mouth of his sack, our silver in its weight. And we have brought it back in our hand, and we have brought down other silver in our hands to buy food. We do not know who put our silver in our sacks. But he said, peace be with you. Do not be afraid. Your Elohim and the Elohim of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. Your silver had come to me. And he brought Simeon out to them. And the man brought to the men into Joseph's house, and gave them water, and they washed their feet, and he gave their donkeys fodder. And they made the present ready for Joseph's coming at noon, for they heard that they were to eat there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house. It bowed down before him to the earth. And he asked them about their welfare, and he said, is your father well, the old man of whom you spoke? Is he still alive? Excuse me. And they said, Your servant, our father, is in good health. He is still alive. And they bowed their heads down and did obeisance. Excuse me. And he lifted his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother, of whom you spoke to me? And he said, Elohim show favor to you, my son. And Joseph hurried, for his emotions were deeply moved towards his brothers, and he looked to weep, and went into his room and wept there. Then he washed his face and came out, and controlled himself and said, Serve the food. And they placed him by himself, and them by themselves, and the Mitzrites who ate with him by themselves. For the Mitzrites could not eat food with the Ebrim, for that is an abomination to the Mitzrites. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at each other in astonishment, and he took portions to them from before him. But Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs, and they feasted and drank with him. Excuse me. Alright, so yeah. So Yosef, basically, he's finding out about his brothers and if his father's still alive. And the thing is, his brothers don't realize that it's him yet. So he's doing all this to see what's going on, questioning them, kind of, you know, just finding out. And then he commanded the one over his house, saying, Fill the men's sacks with food, as they are able to bear, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, and silver for his grain. And he did according to the word of Joseph, which he spoke. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their donkeys. And when they had gone out of the city, not having gone far, Joseph said to the one over his house, Rise up, follow the men, and when you have overtaken them, say to them, Why have you repaid evil for good? Is this not the one from which my master drinks, and with which he indeed divines? You have done evil in what you have done. So he overtook them and spoke these words to them. And they said to him, Why does my master say these words? Far be it from us that your servants should do according to this word. See, we brought back to you from which the land of Canaan the silver, which we found in the mouths of our sacks. How then should we steal silver or gold from your master's house? With whoever your servant it is found, he shall die, and we shall become my master's slaves as well. And he said, Now also let it be according to your words. He with he with whom it is found becomes my slave, and you are innocent. And they hurried, each man let down his sack to the ground, and each opened his sack. And he searched with the oldest first, and the youngest last. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. And they tore their garments, and each man loaded his donkey, and went back to the city. And Yehuda and his brothers came to Joseph's house, and he was still there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said to them, What deed is this that you have done? Did you not know that a man like me indeed divines? And Yehuda said, What do we say to my master? What do we speak? Or how do we clear ourselves? Elohim has found out the wickedness of your servants. See, we are my master's slaves, both we and he also with whom the cup was found. But he said, far be it from me to do this. The man in whose hand's cup was found, he becomes my slave. And you, go up in peace to your father. And Yehuda came near to him and said, O my master, please let your servant speak a word in my master's hearing, and do not let your displeasure burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh. My master asked his servants, saying, Have you a father or a brother? And we said to my master, We have a father, an old man, and a young child of his old age, and his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. And you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, and let me lay my eyes on him. And we said to my master, The boy is not able to leave his father, for if he leaves his father shall die. But you said to your servants, Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you do not see my face again. And it came to be, when we went up to your servant, my father, that we told him the words of my master. And our father said, Go back and buy us a little food. But we said, We are not able to go down, for if our youngest brother is with us, then we shall go down. For we are not able to see the man's face, unless our youngest brother is with us. Then your servant my father said to us, You know that my wife bore me 2 sons, and the one went out from me, and I said, Truly he is torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. And if you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you shall bring down my gray hair with evil to the grave. And now, if I come to your servant, my father, and the boy is not with us, since his own life is bound up in his life, then it shall be, when he sees that the boy is not with us, he shall die. So your servants shall bring down the gray hair of your servant our father with sorrow to the grave. For your servant went guarantor for the boy to my father, saying, If I do not bring him back to you, then I shall be a sinner before my father forever. And now please, let your servant remain instead of the boy as a slave to my master, and let the boy go up with his brothers. For how do I go up to my father if the boy is not with me, lest I see the evil that will come upon my father? Yeah, it's so now he's threatening to keep Benjamin when Joseph made a promise to bring him back. So, yeah, Yehuda made a promise to bring him back. And Joseph's he's kind of just messing with him a little bit. Pretty interesting. Check the chat for a sec. Shalom, Alyssa. Shalom, Renee. Shalom, shalom. Alright, 45. And Joseph was then unable to restrain himself before all those who stood by him. And he called out, Have everyone go out from me. So no one stood with him, while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud. And the Mitzrayites and the house of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were unable to answer him, for they trembled before him. Then Joseph said to his brothers, Please come near to me. And when they came near, he said, I am Joseph, your brother, who you sold into Mitzrayim. And now do not be grieved, nor displeased with yourself, because you sold me here, for Elohim sent me before you to preserve life. For 2 years now, the scarcity of food has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there is neither plowing or harvesting. And Elohim sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth, and to give life to you by a great escape. So then, you did not send me here, but Elohim, and he has appointed me for a father to Pharaoh, and a master of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. Hurry and go up to my father, and say to him, Thus says your son Yosef, Elohim has made me master of all Mitzrayim. Come down to me, do not delay. And you shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and be near to me, you and your children, and your children's children, your flocks and your herds, and all that you have. And I shall provide for you there, lest you and your household, and all that you have, come to poverty, because 5 years of scarcity of food are still to come. And look, your eyes and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see that it is my mouth that speaks to you. And you shall inform my father of all my esteem in Mitzrayim, and of all that you have seen. And you shall hurry and bring my father down here. And he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept on his neck. And he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. And after that his brothers spoke with him. And the report of it was heard by the house of Pharaoh, saying, The brothers of Joseph have come. And it was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Say to your brothers, Do this, load your beasts, and go, enter the land of Canaan, and take your father and your household, and come to me, and I give you the best of the land of Mitzrayim, and you eat the fatness of the land. And you have been commanded to do this. Take wagons out of the land of Mitzrayim for your little ones and your wives, and you shall bring your father and come. And do not be concerned about your goods, for the best of all the land of Mitzrayim is yours. And the sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons, according to the commandment of Pharaoh, and he gave them food for the journey. And he gave to all of them, to each man, changes of garments. But to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver, and 5 changes of garments. And he said to his father this, 10 donkeys loaded with the best of Mitzrayim, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, and bread, and food for his father for the journey. So he sent his brothers away, and they left. And he said to them, Do not quarrel along the way. And they went up out of Mitzrayim, and came to the land of Canaan, to Yaakov their father. And they told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he is governor over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Yaakov's heart ceased, for he did not believe them. But when they spoke to him all the words which Joseph had spoken to them, and when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to transport him, the spirit of Yaakov their father revived. And Yisrael said, Enough, my son. Joseph is still alive. Let me go and see him before I die. And Yisrael departed with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and brought offerings to the Elohim of his father Yitzhak. And and Elohim spoke to Yisrael in the visions of the night, and said, Yaakov, Yaakov. And he said, Here I am. And he said, I am the Elohim of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Mitzrayim, for I shall make you there into a great nation. I myself am going down with you to Mitzrayim, And I myself shall certainly bring you up again. And let Joseph put his hand on your eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel brought their father Jacob, and their little ones, and their wives, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to transport him. And they took their livestock and their property, which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and came into Mitzrayim, Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons, and his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed he brought with him to Mitzrayim. And these were the names of the children of Israel, Jacob and his sons, who came into Mitzrayim. Reuben was Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanok, and Palu, and Hezron, and Carmi, and the sons of Shimon, Yemuel, and Yamin, and Ohad, and Yakin, and Sohar, and Shaul, son of a Canaanite woman. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And the sons of Yehuda, and Onan, and Shelah, and Peretz, and Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Peretz were Hezron and Hamul. And the sons of Issachar, Tola, and Puah, and Job, and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Sered, and Elon, and Yaleel. These were the sons of Leah, who she bore to Jacob in Padan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. All the beings, his sons and his daughters, were 33. And the sons of Gad, Sivion, Siphion, and Haggai, Shuni, and Esteban, Eri, and Arogi, and Areli. The sons of Asher, Yimnah, and Yishwa, and Yishwi, and Beriah, and Sarah, their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malchiel. These were the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah, his daughter, and these she bore to Jacob, 16 beings. The sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, Joseph and Benjamin. And to Joseph in the land of Mitzrayim were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. And the sons of Benjamin, Bela and Becher. Excuse me. And Ashbel, Gera, and Naaman. Ahi and Rosh. Mupim and Hupim and Ard. These were the sons of Rachel, who were born to Jacob, 14 beings in all. And the sons of Dan, Hushim, and the sons of Naphtali, Yatzael and Guni, and Yetzer and Shileam. These were the sons of Bilhah, who Laban gave to Rachel his daughter, and she bore these to Jacob, 7 beings in all. All the beings who went out with Jacob to Mitzrayim, who came from his body, besides Jacob's sons, wives, were 66 beings in all. And the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in Mitzrayim, excuse me, something in my throat there. And the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in Mitzrayim, were 2 beings. All the beings of the house of Jacob who went to Mitzrayim were 70. And he sent Yehuda before him to Joseph, to go point out before him the way to Goshen. And when they came to the land of Goshen, and Joseph made ready his chariot, and went up to Goshen to meet his father, Israel. And he appeared to him, and fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a long time. And Israel said to Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen your face, that you are still alive. And Joseph said to his brothers, and to his father's household, I am going up to inform Pharaoh, and say to him, My brothers, and those of my father's house, who were in the land of Canaan, have come to me. And the men are shepherds, that they have been men of livestock, and they have brought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall be, when Pharaoh calls you and says, What is your occupation? That you shall say, Your servants have been men of livestock from our youth, even till now, both we and also our fathers, so that you dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Mitzrites. Interesting how the Mitzrites, or Egyptians, have all these abominations. Alright. Then Joseph went and spoke to Pharaoh and said, My father and my brothers, their flocks and their herds, and all that they possess, have come from the land of Canaan, and see, there in the land of Goshen. And he took 5 men from among his brothers, and presented them to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to his brothers, What is your occupation? And they said to Pharaoh, Your servants are shepherds, both we and also our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh, We have come to dwell in the land, because there is no pasture for your servants' flocks. For the scarcity of food is severe in the land of Canaan. And now, please, let your servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, saying, Your father and your brothers have come to you. The land of Mitzrayim is before you. Settle your father and brothers in the best of the land, and let them dwell in the land of Goshen. And if you know of capable men among them, then make them chief herdsmen over my livestock. And Joseph brought in his father, Jacob, and stood him before the Pharaoh. And Jacob baruched Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, How many are the days of your life? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, The days of the years of my sojournings are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and they have not reached the days of the years of life of my fathers in the days of their sojournings. And Jacob baruched Pharaoh, and went out from before Pharaoh. So Joseph settled his father and his brothers, and gave them possession in the land of Mitzrayim, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph provided his father and his brothers and all his father's household with bread for the mouth of the little ones. Now there was no bread in all the land, because the scarcity of food was very severe. And the land of Mitzrayim and all the land of Canaan became exhausted from the scarcity of food. And Joseph gathered up all the silver that was found in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan, for the grain which they had bought. And Joseph brought the silver into Pharaoh's house. But when the silver was all spent in the land of Mitzrayim, and in the land of Canaan, all the Mitzrites came to Joseph and said, Give us bread, for why should we die in your presence? For the silver is gone. And Joseph said, Give your give your livestock and I give you bread for your livestock, if the silver is gone. So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks they owned, and for the herds they owned, and for the donkeys. Thus he fed them with bread in exchange for all their livestock that year. And when the year had ended, they came to him the next year, and said to him, We do not hide from my master that our silver is all spent, and my master also has the livestock we own. There has not been any left before my master, but our bodies and our lands. Why should we die before your eyes, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and let us and our land be servants of Pharaoh, and give us seed, and let us live, and not die. And let the land not lie waste. And Joseph brought the entire land of Mitzrayim for Pharaoh, because every man of the Mitzrayites sold his field, because the scarcity of food was severe upon them. And the land came to be Pharaoh's. And as for the people, he moved them into the cities, from one end of the borders of Mitzrayim to the other end. And only the ground of the priests he did not buy, for the priests had allotments from Pharaoh, and they ate their allotments, which Pharaoh gave them. Therefore they did not sell their ground. And Joseph said to the people, Look, I have bought you and your land today for Pharaoh. Look, here is seed for you, and you shall sow the land. And it shall be, it shall be that in the harvest you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh, and 4/5 is your own, as seed for the field, and for your food, for those of your household, as food for your little ones. And they said, You have saved our lives. Let us find favor in the eyes of my master, and we shall become Pharaoh's servants. And Joseph made it a law over the land of Mitzrayim to this day, that Pharaoh should have 1/5, except for the ground of the priests only, which did not become Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Mitzrayim, in the land of Goshen, and they had possessions there, and bore fruit, and increased exceedingly. And Jacob lived in the land of Mitzrayim 17 years. So the length of Jacob's life was 147 years. And the time for Israel to die drew near. He called his son Joseph, and said to him, Now if I have found favor in your eyes, please put your hand under my thigh, and show kindness and truth to me. Please do not bury me in Mitzrayim, but I shall lie with my fathers, and you shall take me up out of Mitzrayim, and bury me in their burial place. And he said, I do as you have said. And he said, Swear to me. And he swore to him. And Israel bowed himself on the head of the bed. And after these events it came to be, that it was said to Joseph, See, your father is sick. And he took with him his 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. And Jacob was told, See, your son Joseph is coming to you. And Israel strengthened himself, and sat up on the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai appeared to me at Luz, in the land of Canaan, and baruch me, and said to me, See, I am making you bear fruit, and shall increase you, and make of you an assembly of people, and give this land to your seed after you, as an everlasting possession. And now your 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, who were born to you in the land of Mitzrayim, before I came to you in Mitzrayim, are mine. As Reuben and Simon, they are mine. Your offspring, whom you shall bring forth, after them are yours. and let them be called by the name of their brothers in their inheritance. And when I came from Padan, Rachel died beside me in the land of Canaan, on the way, when there was but a little distance to go to Ephrath. And I buried her there on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Israel saw Joseph's sons, and said, Who are these? And Joseph said to his father, They are my sons, who Elohim has given me in this place. And he said, Please, bring them to me, and let me baruch them. And the eyes of Israel were dim with age, and he was unable to see. And he drew them near to him, and kissed them, and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I had not thought to see your face, but see, Elohim has also shown me your seed. So Joseph brought them from between his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph took them both, Ephraim with his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh with his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near him. And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, consciously directing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he baruched Joseph, and said, The Elohim before whom my father Abraham and Yitzhak walked, the Elohim who has fed me all my life long to this day, the messenger who has redeemed me from all evil, baruch these youths, and let my name be called upon them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Yitzhak, and let them increase to a multitude in the midst of the earth. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, it was evil in his eyes. And he took hold of his father's hand to remove it from the head of Ephraim to the head of Manasseh. And Joseph said to his father, Not so, my father, for this one is the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He also becomes a people, and he also is great, and yet his younger brother is greater than he, and his seed is to become the completeness of the nations. And he baruched them on that day, saying, In you, Yisrael, shall baruch, saying, Elohim make you as Ephraim, and as Manasseh. Thus he put Ephraim before Manasseh. And Yisrael said to Joseph, See, I am dying, but Elohim shall be with you, and bring you back to the land of your fathers. And I have given to you one portion above your brothers, which I took from the hand of the Amorite, with my sword and with my bow. And Jacob called his sons and said, Gather together, so that I declare to you what is to befall you in the last days. Gather together and hear, you sons of Jacob, and listen to Israel your father. Reuben, you are my firstborn, my power, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of exaltation, and the excellency of power. Unstable as the waters, you do not excel, because you went up to your father's bed, then you defiled it. He went up to my couch. Shimeon and Levi are brothers. Their weapons are implements of violence. Let my being not enter their council, let my esteem not be united to their assembly, because they slew a man in their displeasure, and they lamed an ox in pleasure. Cursed be their displeasure, for it is fierce, and their wrath, for it is cruel. I divide them in Jacob, and scatter them in Israel. You, Yehuda, your brothers praise you. Your hand is on the neck of your enemies. Your father's children bow down before you. Yehuda is a lion's cub. From the prey you have gone up, my son. He bowed down and crouched like a lion, and like a lion, who rouses him? The scepter shall not turn aside from Yehuda, nor a lawgiver from between his feet, until Shiloh comes, and to him the obedience of peoples. Binding his donkey to the vine, and his donkey's colt to the choice vine, he washed his garments in wine, and his robes in the blood of grapes. His eyes are darker than wine, and his teeth whiter than milk. Zebulun dwells at the seashore. He is a haven for ships, and his border is unto Sidon. Issachar is a strong donkey, lying down between two burdens. And he saw that resting place was good, and that the land was pleasant. And he inclined his shoulder to bear a burden, and became a subject to slave labor. Dan rightly rules his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan is a serpent by the way, an adder by the path, that bites the horse's heels, so its rider falls backwards. I have waited for your deliverance, O Yahweh. Gad, a raiding band raids him, but he raids its heel. Bread from Asher is rich, and he gives delicacies of a sovereign. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He gives words of elegance. Yosef is an offshoot of fruit-bearing tree. An offshoot of a fruit-bearing tree by a fountain. His branches run over a wall. And the archers have bitterly grieved him, shot at him, and hated him. But his bow remained in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty one of Jacob. And from there is the shepherd of the stone of Yisrael, from the El of your father, who helps you, and by El Shaddai, who baruch you, with Barakoth, and the Shamayim above, Barakoth of the deep that lies beneath, Barakoth of the breasts and of the womb. The Barakoth of your father have excelled in the Barakoth of my ancestors, up to the limit of the everlasting hills. They are on the head of Yosef, and on the crown of the head of him who was separated from his brothers. Benjamin is a wolf that tears in the morning. He eats prey, and at night he divides the spoil. All these, the 12 tribes of Israel. And this is what their father spoke to them. And he baruched them. He baruched each one according to his own barakah. And he commanded them, and said to them, I am I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite, as a possession for a burial site. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Yitzhak and Rivkah his wife. And there I buried Leah. The field purchased, and the cave which was in it, from the sons of Heth. And when Jacob ended commanding his sons, he drew his feet up into the bed, and breathed his last, and was gathered to his people. And Joseph fell on his father's face, and wept over him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants of the physicians to embalm his father, so that the physicians embalmed Israel. And 40 days were completed for him. For so are completed the days of embalming. And the Mitzrayites wept for him 70 days. And when the days of weeping for him were past, Joseph spoke to the household of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found favor in your eyes, please speak in the hearing of Pharaoh, saying, My father made me swear, saying, See, I am dying. Bury me in the grave which I dug for myself in the land of Canaan. And now, please let me go up and bury my father and return. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury your father, as he made you swear. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and with him went up all his servants of Pharaoh, and the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Mitzrayim, and all the house of Joseph, and his brothers, and his father's house. Only their little ones and their flocks and their herds they left in the land of Goshen. And there they went up with him, both chariots and horsemen, and it was a very great company. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond the Yarden, and they lamented there, with a great and very heavy lamentation. And he observed 7 days of mourning for his father. And when the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites, saw the mourning at the threshing floor at Atad, they said, This is a grievous mourning for the Mitzrayites. That is why its name was called Abel, Mitzrayim, which is beyond the Yarden. And his sons did to him as he had commanded them. For his sons brought him to the land of Canaan, and buried him in the cave of the field of Machpelah, before Mamre, which Abraham bought with the field from Ephron, the Hittite, as property for a burial site. And after he had buried his father, Joseph returned to Mitzrayim, he and his brothers, and all who went up with him to bury his father. And when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, What if Joseph hates us, and pays us back all the evil which he did to him? And they sent word to Joseph, saying, Before your father died, he commanded, saying, This is what you are to say to Joseph. I beg you, please forgive the transgression of your brothers, and their sin, for they did evil to you. Now please forgive the transgression of the servants of the Elohim of your father. And Joseph wept when they spoke to him. And his brothers also went and fell down before his face. And they said, See, we are your servants. And Joseph said to them, Excuse me, Do not fear, for am I in the place of Elohim? And you intended evil against me, but Elohim intended it for good, in order to do as it is this day, to keep a great many people alive. And now, do not fear, I provide for you and your little ones. So he comforted them, and spoke kindly to them. And Joseph dwelt in Mitzrayim, he and his father's household. And Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the 3rd generation. The children of Machir, the sons of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am dying, but Elohim shall certainly visit you, and bring you out of this land, to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Jacob. And Joseph made the children of Israel swear, saying, Elohim shall certainly visit you, and you shall bring up my bones from here. And Joseph died, being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was placed in a coffin in Mitzrayim. Alright. So that was Bereshith. The end of Bereshith. So, there's a whole lot of meat in there. It's the beginning. That's what it is. Bereshith means beginning. So it's went through the creation, through everything, the 12 tribes, the 12 patriarchs. Yeah, so so next week we'll be doing or beginning the book of Daniel. I might do it out of the Sefer actually. I was thinking the BYNV. Oh no, I was kind of reading through it a little bit. Oh no, some of the pronunciations in there they don't sit well with me. So yeah, yeah. I think I'll be reading it from the Sefer. I like the Sefer anyway. Dr. Pigeon, he has a lot of good insight and he's done a lot of research and he's put it into his writings. So, besides the Hallelujah scriptures, the Eth Sefer is one of my favorites. Yeah, stay tuned next week. We'll be getting into Daniel, and then after Daniel, Revelation. I believe it's very important in these times that we're in. Not many realize the times we're in, and they think we're just gonna go back to how it was before all this scamdemic started. It's it's not. Trust me, it's not. That's what they want you to think. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. As always. And yeah, Sundays about the same time is gonna be my new time. You know, doing it last Monday after working all day just didn't work out. I had literally like an hour to put everything together. It didn't work. Anyways, thank you, Alyssa. You are awesome. Thank you everyone who has joined. I really appreciate all of you. You know, catch me on Facebook, MeWe. Lighthouse is coming in a couple weeks. I'm definitely going to be on there. That's going to be my #1 site after it drops. Might actually do my videos on there. Because it's going to be like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, whatever, all in one. So, and no shadow banning, none of that. None of that what Facebook does. Freedom of speech. You can talk about whatever you like, as long as it's not going to incite violence or hate, which I like. So, anyways, thank you for joining me, Mishpaha. I will see you next week for the Book of Daniel. It's going to be awesome. And I might ramble on during it, because, it's got a lot in it. But, it needs to be learned, it needs to be said, it needs to be preached, because we need to start repenting and turning to his ways. Time's very, very short. His word is what you need to turn to. Not a church, not some preacher, not some man. Follow no man. Don't listen, only follow his word. His word, his ruach is what will guide you. You can support your brothers and sisters. You can give them love. Of course, nothing wrong with that. You can listen to their streams. You can love it. Just, if they're coming up with these crazy doctrines, don't follow them blindly. Just, read. See if it's written in his word. Because there sure is a lot of crazy doctrines coming up lately. Just the other day, there was a guy promoting the pentagram as a symbol to worship Yahweh. Straight up witchcraft pentagram. And then he had the Aleph Bet all, inscribed into it. No. And then when I questioned him, I just simply asked, because I knew it was wrong. I simply asked, where is it written that you're getting this doctrine? I would like to know. And he straight up attacked me, said I had no etiquette, was disrespectful, I was an idiot and a moron because I didn't read his post. When I did read his post, and I was asking for scriptures so he can support what he's claiming. No, he didn't do that. He just wanted to attack and attack and attack. So I unfriended him. And I kind of made a post saying, why do people instead of simply answering a question about scripture, instead of doing that, why do they attack you and like totally avoid the subject or the answer? Because it's not written is why. Number one, they want to attack you because they want to be right and everyone else is wrong. That's pride. If someone's like that, I'm not telling y'all what to do, but just these are the type of people we got to stay away from. We can preach to them, but they're gonna hate you. So you can preach to them and then just move on to the next, because otherwise they're just gonna cause hate and division. That is not of Yahuwah. I'm about bringing everybody together in love. These crazy doctrines, I try to talk to these people and show them what's written in the Word. They just want to attack, just move on from that. Otherwise, you could have a bad day because of them. Anyways, enough of my rambling. Thank you all for joining me. I love you all. Please like and share if you haven't already. Join me next week. Join me for all my shows. I'm going to be doing this until I can't do it no more, Yahuwah willing. So, in it for the long haul. Anyways, thanks for joining me. And, man, something in my throat here. Excuse me. Thanks for joining me, and we'll see y'all next week. Shalom, shalom, shalom. And thanks for coming to Cover with Jeremy Pyers.